The adult beverages are poured, the kids are asleep. Welcome to New Dad Gaming, a show about fatherhood, gaming, and new fathers figuring out their gaming lives. My name is Trevor, and I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old.
I'm Jeff. I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old.
Okay, quick story off the hop, and it's one of those things where you keep mentioning something to your kids, so they start repeating it without fully understanding the context of it.
Oh, yeah, those are the best kind.
So mine is, like, I'll be working and I just hear my youngest squealing, being completely upset, right? Like, because my oldest is antagonizing him. So, and as if I would say that to him and he'd understand. It's like, stop antagonizing him. Do you understand? Right. And eventually I'd come up, it's like, what happened? I was antagonizing him. It's like spell antagonizing forward. You know, it's like I'm kind of glad. That's good that your vocabulary is expanding, but I don't think that's an age appropriate. You're bugging him. You're bugging him.
Right.
Stop bugging him.
That's funny though. Like he's probably at recess. He's like, stop antagonizing each other.
I can't wait to get a note from the teacher. It's like, yeah, your son told me to stop antagonizing him.
Can you just quit it with the learning, please?
Yeah. Your learning's really antagonistic. Thank you. Moving on to gaming news, you had a great thing. I've always kind of dreamt of when I get to the phase where you're sort of at, where it's like I get to play the game, the kid's going to watch, or we're together going to watch a football game, watch a soccer game, like just, you know, that kind of active watching of a particular segment. And it sounded like you had a bit of that this week, because you and your son checked out the Nintendo Direct that happened just this week. So what was that like? What, especially from a kid who loves video games and probably was pretty excited by most of it.
Yeah, just living the dream over here, Trevor. You know, what can I say?
Can I watch Nintendo Direct? Yes, son.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely you can. Yeah, I had mentioned that there was a lot going on this week. There was Nintendo Direct and State of Play and Tokyo Game Show, but I have kind of mentioned it to somebody else that I was talking to. And my 9-year-old ears perked up. They're like, oh, Nintendo's showing more games? Like, they are.
Games, you say?
It's that time. So they were really interested. They asked what time. And I said, well, we could live stream it or watch it later. And they were pretty keen on live streaming it to get all that, like, right as it was going. You know, it's different when it's recorded, Dad. Like, let's do it live. So we watched this together. And Nintendo, I think, has extended this one. It was almost an hour. I wasn't expecting it that long. Wow. I thought it was like a 20-minute thing. But I have like a lot of birthdays and Christmases covered because Nintendo showed a lot of games that my 9-year-old wants, all of them. Like, it wasn't.
Ooh, I'll take. He's just like he has his list out as you're speaking. He's like, I'll take this one, and I will take this one, and let's see if I get 2 for Christmas, and then I get 2 for my birthday.
Yeah, one from grandma, one from like, you know, my brother, and yeah, it was a lot that Nintendo showed, and it just kept like one hit after another, like especially to my 9-year-old. So not everything hit for me, but man, like it was just like, oh, I really want that game, and it was like this farming sim that was by Square Enix. I think it's Harvestella or something. Oh, okay, and they're like, you know, it's like this RPG monsters. It's kind of like Stardew, but it's a little bit older. I really want that one. Mm-hmm. And then Kirby, and they're like, oh, I really want the Kirby. That's amazing. I can't wait to play that game. I'm like, you have a Kirby game, you don't play it. Like, but that one.
No, not. That's old, Dad. Get with it now, please.
The problem with Kirby games too is like they don't number them at all. Like, and all the names are really close. I'm old now. I'm like, I can't tell the difference. Grandma's gonna give you the wrong one.
Oh, grandma's. That is an absolute nightmare for a grandma. Like at least when everything used to be sequential, right? Like the PlayStation 2, PlayStation. Tell you what, they're the best ones for at least the consoles, right? All very sequential.
Right.
Xbox, I'm still confused. I think I have the latest.
That's not entirely sure. It could be like Kirby, right? You have no idea if Kirby's the latest or not. I have no idea. All Stars, Kirby Challenge. I don't know what it was called, but
Kirby. That's great. So the entire time the two of you were watching all these games together, and he stuck in for the whole thing and got just increasingly excited about the various ones coming out. Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, and again, the highlight was Kirby Factorio. Really interested in automation. That was specific. They said, I really want the automation in that it looks like fun. I'm like, wow, that's an older type game. Absolutely, let's try it out. I don't know how it's going to hold up on the Switch, but your computer can't run it.
Yeah.
Um,
Just good organizational skills, like practice.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. People love
yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah, let's organize this like you don't organize your bedroom. So like whatever can help. But in the like midway to the show, they had their online offerings, and I was taken aback because they are re-releasing Goldeneye.
Oh my god, I can't like it. The internet by storm. Like I didn't watch the event, but immediately I was pretty well aware of Goldeneye
Yeah.
because like Twitter and everybody on it just could not stop talking about it, and it seemed like there was a bit of controversy. Is probably too strong a word, but there certainly was not. Some of the elements of the release does not seem to be well received. Is that right?
Yeah, this was they inserted multiplayer, like online multiplayer into this, which that was kind of a surprise. Like everyone expected the local co-op.
Oh
But
yeah.
the online is exclusive just to the Switch. So it is launching on Xbox Game Pass. No online at all ever.
Yeah. I want to know how you feel about that because like for me, hey, there's Goldeneye. Yay! It comes to the Xbox. Wow, that's like how good of you. That's amazing that you released it to a different system. Fantastic. And I think it's actually on Game Pass, so it's even better.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to pay for it. And it's like, oh, it's going to have the full campaign. It's going to be HD, and it's going to be the local multiplayer that you love. I'm like, wow, that's all excellent. We're introducing online multiplayer. That's fascinating, but only
Great.
for Switch. You're like, huh.
What?
Now, now, at that point, like I said, there's so much of it for me when I heard about it. I have a hard time getting upset about that because so much of the rest of it was amazing. Like, wow, I get to play
Yeah.
modern day Goldeneye or the remake of Goldeneye on my modern system on my Xbox. Fantastic. And then it's just like, oh, but you can't do multiplayer. It's like, yeah, fine, good. But now, how are you feeling about it?
Well, I don't have an Xbox, so I'm feeling better.
You're careless.
But I don't
Couldn't
pay
care
for
less, I should say.
I don't pay for Nintendo Online, so I'm not gonna pay for the online plus the expansion pack because you have to do the expansion pack to get this,
Oh.
which to me is like this whole game's price tag. Granted,
Yeah.
for a year, but I don't think I would play with too many people. I don't know how this game would function online. But local co-op or local multiplayer, very different experience when you have all your buddies around. You know them.
Yeah.
When people are kind of getting pissed off and stuff and, jerking around. Online, I don't know what people are going to do with this game. Do you know what I mean? Like, just
Yeah.
going back to, like, Counter-Strike days where, you'd have your campers and snipers and all sorts of people just running around doing stupid things. And I don't know. GoldenEye is a very tight game and very small. Like, it's a small map for each one. So, I don't know. See what happens.
See that's a very fascinating thought because I wonder if it could possibly replicate it. Like it is look. Let's be really honest here. Like it's a janky game.
Oh,
right?
for sure. Yes.
Like I don't know if you try. Like it's still fun. Like you still go back and you'll have your nostalgia. You'll have a great time. But it is janky.
Yeah. Yeah.
And part of the greatest part was like you and your 3 other buddies, and you got pizza, and you got your 4 controllers. Like that proximity in playing was a real drive of it. It was amazing, right?
Yeah.
But it's also we were young. Like I don't know that you could just like It's like and then you'll just play it online. It could be exactly like it was. I don't know that you can recapture it. I would be interested. So sorry, let me finish that thought. So where does that go with online? Is it possible that online play would have that same will you get any of those feelings from playing online? That's yet to be seen. Then the more interesting one, after you finish that thought, will you get this? Do you think you can get the same feeling by playing online? And the second follow-up, do you think you can get that feeling by playing with your kids? Especially if you can convince your wife, you have a foursome ready to go.
Yeah.
To play this like all together. Like, what are your 2 takes on that?
Online, I'm not sure. Okay, so just we're all trying to chase this nostalgia of what was, right? So even trying to replay through this game, like I love it to death. This is one of the greatest games that I've ever played at that time. Now, I don't know if this is going to be just like, I'm going to use my old dad saying, a fart in the wind and it kind of goes out in the weekend. That's it. Multiplayer, I think it depends on kind of who you get in that lobby and who is playing with you, but I think you could have fun. I don't think you'll have the same energy as what back in the old days of sitting on the couch. That being said, with my kids locally and with my wife, I mean, I would have a blast because I know these maps like the back of my hand.
That is like that is be
Right?
clear is like your kids are very good at games.
They
and you,
are.
and
Oh
you're
no,
getting
yeah,
old.
that's true. That's true. So,
So I don't know, like, so you got to be careful about that arrogance, man. I don't know that, like, you might have a real comeuppance in a humbling moment.
I mean, I could position it as like this is the only time you could slap your dad with the slappers only. Like it could be really hilarious. Like that, I think they would have a blast at. But somebody would kill somebody else, and do you know what I mean? Like it would end in a bad time. I think we could have maybe a few matches before it starts to turn. At least with my kids. I don't know about your own, but be like,
They're
nah.
it's a bit young. So the first person, well, they've both played Garden Warfare, so they have some familiarity about weapons, reloading, and kind of like first person style action. So they might be able to pull it off, but I think it would go over their heads, the competitive nature of it, and especially if I'm trying. I mean, because again, too, let's go with the version of this,
Right.
which I'm not sure I agree with, but the version of it where you're so talented at this, Jeff, that your kids don't even stand a chance.
Yeah.
And then you got to, okay, how much is Jeff going to pull up to let the kid have one kill or two and not feel like a complete wipe? Because part of that competitive nature too is that you and all your buddies were trying as hard as possible
yeah. Yeah.
to win, right? So unless your kids haven't like really take after their dad and become like next level Goldeneye players, I'd be curious about.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen them in Smash. They picked that up pretty quick and then started beating me like within weeks and months. So yeah, they could learn this game, and I'm sure just again, I used to play this all the time. Proximity mines in the complex, like I know all the spaces to hide, and I'm sure they'll pick that up pretty quickly and make a fool of me. But
God,
I don't know.
you'd
It's
be
an
the
option.
worst to play against. They're just like, you're not gonna do nothing but piss them off. You're gonna pick odd job. You're gonna like hide in the corner.
Didn't even need odd job, Trevor. I can't
Oh
believe you would even
wow,
say that to me. I'd be like Jaws. I'd be the tallest one in there
bring me on.
with throwing knives and still clean up.
Oh,
This is my
Lord.
jam. So yeah, I'll let them win if we do try it. I mean, again, it's going to Game Pass. I hope that you would try it.
Oh
Maybe
yeah,
not with your kids, but with somebody that's have a good gaming sesh.
oh,
Let me
that'd be
know.
fantastic. That would just be so much fun. Maybe even with my kids if I can get them into it, but very least like just the. I would absolutely want to do it just for that nostalgia trip. I remember
Yeah.
buying it as an adult, somewhere in my 20s. I remember buying an N64, and for the first time beating Zelda, Ocarina of Time.
Right.
And then because I never had N64 when I was growing up, and then also GoldenEye, just like playing all of the missions and just
Yeah.
remembering like immediate throwback to how awful the controls are,
Yeah.
and B,
Yeah.
how fantastic that game still hold up. So
Yeah.
what an amazing announcement! So thrilled it's come to Xbox. I am curious to hear from gaming dads out there. Are you upset about the lack of online multiplayer for the Xbox? Are you excited to play this with your own kids and like have your own in-house 4-player pizza party, GoldenEye, harkening back to the old days? Gather around, kids. Come watch how your dad was forged on the battlefield.
That's right.
GoldenEye. But love to hear your notes there, gaming dads. So you reach out to us at our Twitter at NewDadGaming or our website newdadgaming.com.
Get on
Now
it.
we are ripping apart
Yeah.
GoldenEye for its awful control scheme and graphics, everything else like that. Like it's still a classic. It'll always will be. Now, one thing I got into a somewhat similar scenario. So recently, I got into Immortals: Phoenix Rising,
Okay.
which is well. Let me get to the transition first. Like the super janky and not super janky. It is janky. The animations are not that great. The
Yeah.
gameplay is not even particularly smooth. It feels like a poor man's Assassin's Creed.
Okay.
Like everything's
yeah.
just a little bit less quality. Like what did you call it when I was asking you about the game?
It's just like a high quality mobile game. And it's not like, that's not like, bringing this down by any means. It just, that's what it felt like to me. Like it was just
Yeah.
like you were saying, those transitions weren't as smooth. There's something just a little bit off. Like, you know?
And now, so the great thing about that though, like what it immediately did for me, and by the way, I'm adoring this game. I'm probably gonna go play it tonight after we're done recording. Lots of fun. It showed up on Game Pass, so anybody with that service, I suggest dads try it. What it did for me though is like the complete immediate lack of polish was actually very endearing to me because immediately it kind of felt like a PS2 game,
Oh,
and kind of the contained nature of it, as opposed to even with a Breath of the Wild or something like an Assassin's Creed game. You're like, oh boy, this is really fun. Let me just go to this map. Oh no, I don't have time to play
why
this.
did
My
I
lord.
do this? Yeah.
I can't play it. But you look at this one, you're like, huh, this is fairly contained. Everything's kind of like fun. It like I got immediately like Fable vibes, like the initial or
Okay.
Fable 1 or Fable 2.
Yeah, I can see that.
Just how you can tell that they put a lot of care into it. They tried very hard. There is a story. Everything's meaningful, but there's limitations of tech at the time. So between that kind of PS2 vibes, like the Fable vibe, the not condensed, but like the reasonable, contained size of it all,
Yeah.
it's been really great. It drum up so much nostalgic of like, oh, this is just a video ass game, video. This is just a video, very much just a straight up video game,
Yeah.
a game ass video game. That's the like term I was like, for. It's from another podcast, and I always love that term. It's a game ass video game.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
great.
I could totally see that. I remember playing the demo of this thing, and it was good. At like, I had fun with it. There was a lot of puzzles in the one area I think I gave you, which were very Zelda vibes. Like I think it was like
No, don't be kind. It is a top to bottom rip off.
Oh, it's completely ripping it off.
Like they get these gauntlets at some point so you can lift stuff. It is
Yep.
the exact damn animation as far as like the beam shooting out from hands.
Yeah.
It has all of the stamina features. So climbing and running and swimming, it all takes stamina, exactly like Breath of the Wild. The best part, Jeff, is like the weapons don't break. It's perfect.
It's Trevor Zelda. Look at this.
Look,
We did it.
I've been waiting for this to not have my damn weapons break in a Zelda game.
Nintendo's out there taking notes. They're like, oh, actually, they did like that. They don't like the weapons not breaking and freaking out, and never using anything.
Okay, so you before I went on my tirade, you had mentioned that so it had some Zelda-like puzzles. And...
Yeah, it's Zelda, but with a different coat of paint, which was it was good. It was fun. I did find like what you were kind of saying, where it's PS2 vibes are like something where it feels approachable and casual, and you can kind of sink into it and not have to worry about. I didn't find it overly difficult.
No.
It seemed like I have a lot of checkpoints, a lot of saving going on. So you kind of felt comfortable and not too pressured, because I find like even coming from games like Elden Ring and Sekiro, like, I could lose a lot of progress at any time. And this thing was just, back in the day, was a nice kind of, it was a video game. Like you said, it was just a nice video game. Even the kids picked it up and they had a blast with, especially like my 12-year-old who's really into like Greek mythology, loved the mythology part of it,
yeah.
right? So they were very much into that kind of story, and would always mention what's wrong in it. And like
Well, point of order.
I don't think so. That didn't happen. Like, so they had a good time with it. I never ended up picking it up, but I could see if I had Game Pass, that would be an easy kind of turnkey to get back into it.
Oh, yeah, no. So I'll say that like, I'm exactly with your kid on this one, and I don't know if you've ever had this experience with another game, but apropos of nothing, just like perfect synergy. I'm reading a book called Mythos by Stephen Fry, which is just an entire coverage of Greek mythology, like top to bottom. So like it's a phenomenal book. Like I'm really adoring it. But then I just happen to get into this, and it's like, oh, and then Hera does this. I'm like, hey, I know
There you
Hera.
go.
Like I remember that from the book.
Yeah, exactly.
So they mentioned, and even the Titan, who before I was reading this book, so the main foe seems to be one of the Titans.
Yep.
Of Greek mythology. And before I'd read this book, I really would not have recognized the name. Now I do. So I don't know if you've ever had like I read this or I studied this and now I'm seeing it in game form. Hooray.
A lot with God of War. So God of War goes through a lot of
nice.
those myths
Yeah.
and there's a lot of liberties taken, but they could be a little bit more brutal with it too, because a lot of that mythology, like it was brutal, and this is very, cartoony, which is fine, right? But
Yeah.
like you were saying, you kind of did your homework on this one, and you got more out of it, right? Versus the game kind of telling you. But my 12-year-old loves it, and we mentioned on our Twitter too, like he listens to a podcast called Greeking Out by National Geographic. Very approachable. So for any kids that are looking for like a high level,
Excellent.
a rainbow kind of view of Greek mythology, Greeking Out is one to look out. Lots of episodes on it too. So very approachable. And now my 12-year-old's kind of getting into the ugly side of Greek mythology because he's older and he can understand a little bit more. But
Oh yeah, just wait till he learns how Aphrodite was created.
oh, he does know.
Okay.
We had many a chats, which is good. Like that conversation is opening up, and we're getting into a little bit more serious talks. But maybe God of War is on the horizon for him. I don't know. We can get into a little bit more mature.
I am so enjoying the research of the history followed by the playing of the game. Like I'm fairly tempted that if I ever do dip back into God of War, like I might want to pick up a book about Norse mythology.
Yeah.
Norse, is it?
Yeah,
right?
Norse. Yeah.
Norse mythology, because the thought that you would read about Thor and Odin and all Loki, all those gods and everything else that they did. Because of course, like, okay, Odin, like Thor, okay, I can say those guys. I don't know very much about the rest of it, besides what I was kind of picking up for God of War. So the thought that you'd actually not study, but like just kind of immerse yourself in that, and then so when you're playing through, there's all those kind of recognizable, like, hey, I remember that from the books.
Yeah, and that's probably a good way to do it, because I usually go down the rabbit hole after and discover a lot of the stuff that, hey, they actually call that out in a different way, right? Like they're relating back to it, which is neat to see as like an artist, right? Like they managed to insert these things in. So maybe your way's a little bit better because you get more out of the game as you play instead of later on, which still inspiring to go and off into the old myths and escapism. But no, that's a good one. I like it.
I adore the fact that your kid is going through the podcast too about Greek mythology, because I've always loved that. Like on interviews I've been on other podcasts about New Dad Gaming, that's one of the opportunities I speak about. I was like, look, there's so much rich, interesting mythology and stories and history that could be relayed. Like you talk about Egypt, and one of the better stories I had heard about, I think, and you had, I think, a similar experience. I may be remembering this wrong, but it was just with the Assassin's Creed that was set in Egypt, ancient Egypt, and the realism. There's a whole segment of gamers that were completely turning off any combat, any game loops, anything. They were just walking around Egypt because they found it to be so enthralling to be in this world that they had like learned about or studied about. And you can kind of see that kindling within kids too, where it's like, wow, like Greek mythology is awesome. It's like, there's some really like interesting books about it. Like, oh, ancient Egypt. It's like Egypt had themselves like archaeologists because it survived for 3,000 years.
Yeah.
Like, we could learn more.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned Assassin's Creed, like with the Origins that was so popular. They put so much time into it that they made a mode that was like a museum mode, right? So you walked around and it was like his guided tour with a narrator, and it would go through all the structures and little stories. And I think it was popular enough that they put it into Odyssey, if I'm not mistaken. I think they had the same thing in Odyssey about, I think that's Roman. I think that's the Roman times. Might be Greek. I might be mistaken there. But no, my kids had a blast with that one because, again, Assassin's Creed is very large and draining in its own right. But the history and the amount of work that they did and putting life into that world and stuff that I did not know about, just even seeing the farming and the agriculture, like how they did it, that it's like true to life, true to what they know, which is great to see. Like that is something that kind of propelled me through this game.
Yeah, I can remember back to that. It wasn't as detailed, but you do remember the cities of the original Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Which was set in, what? I am blanking on the exact like history and culture, but it felt like it was in the Middle East. But it was like stunning, like just like these cities. Actually, it was Middle East or like, man, I'm blowing that. Anyways, the settings of the first Assassin's Creed, even despite all the technological issues that existed back then, like they're still just so vibrant, and like the way the cities were like set up and on top of each other, it was a blast just to run around. but the fact that they would just lean into it,
Yeah.
and kind of give like kudos and credit to their game level designers, like the amount of detail they'd put in, so that you could build a museum mode, like what from a video game. How phenomenal!
Yeah, and kind of like a two birds, one stone. Like they made the city so realistic, but yet playable, right? Because it still has to be video gaming. Otherwise, you're gonna run down 5 kilometers of empty road. You know what I mean? Like to get to the next thing over the desert, to get to the next city of like Memphis. But no, they did a good. Like I don't give enough props to Assassin's Creed, and a lot of people just want to, like, oh, there's another one. Oh, it's gonna be janky, right? There's gonna be a bunch of problems with it, but they've really kind of owned this, like going into mythology and stuff, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I haven't heard as much praise for the. I mean, we're talking about Norse. I didn't hear as much for the Viking one. I don't know if you'd have to imagine it's probably as steeped, but
It's free on the PS Plus I have. And I haven't downloaded it because I have to delete games. It's like an 80 gig game or something, so I have to go and delete. I'm like, I don't want to right now. So it is there. Maybe I'll play it after the show and dive in there.
so excited.
Yeah.
Please report back. And I tell you, it's some of the greatest part about gaming. I absolutely love the place that we've arrived. Besides the technology, the fun stuff, the capability, the improvement of life, where it's like autosave and fast load and all these other great parts, but like the thought that we can have borderline educational experiences that just expand what's possible from a exploration of history. Man, awesome. Love it.
Check all the kids into learning. Look at that.
That's right. It's like, haha, Dad, I killed a guy. You killed a historical figure. Which technically means you're learning.
When you get to grade 7 or 8, you're going to know that. It's not even going to be a problem.
It's like, describe the assassination attempt of the Egyptian ruler. You're like, yeah, stupid Assassin's Creed learning this stuff. Stupid A+.
Exactly.
I hate you, games. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. This has been New Dad Gaming. Do you have your own experiences with historical games? Have you read something and then played the games? Do you have a thought on Goldeneye? Are you looking forward to getting together with some other gaming dads or your own family unit to try to remake those old pizza-laden, Coke-strewn, as in Coca-Cola, Coke-strewn gaming nights around the old N64? We'd love to hear from you. You can find us at our Twitter, at NewDadGaming, or our website, newdadgaming.com. Especially on Twitter, one of the greatest parts of these last couple months as the show has continued to grow has been all the interaction with fellow gaming dads on these networks. So please do reach out if you have any thoughts or ideas or just to say hello. We'd love to hear from you. If you did like the show, you can find us on any of the podcasting networks to subscribe. So you can subscribe on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Caster, anywhere where you get your podcast. What really would help it, if we could ask for a favor, is if, besides a subscription, if you could leave a rating and a comment. Doing so massively boosts the show to other gaming dads as we try to bring as many as possible into the fold to compare Assassin's Creed's historical inaccuracies.
That's right.
For our Wikipedia entry. But besides that, everybody, as every week, we can't thank you enough for listening. Until next week, my name is Trevor, and I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old.
And I'm Jeff. I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old.
All right. And remember, just because you became a dad
Does not mean game over.